Good evening, everyone. It's Wednesday, April 10th, 2024. This is our Board of Commissioners regular meeting. Could I impose on the city attorney to do our invocation, please, and pledge of allegiance?
Heavenly Father, we seek blessings on the tasks before us. Bless our efforts with clear insight, our deliberations with wisdom, our work with clarity and accuracy, and our decisions with impartiality. We pray that our work this evening will find favor in your sight. This we pray. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
City Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Mayor Rostick,
Present.
Vice Mayor Kerr,
Here.
Commissioner Taglerini,
Here.
Commissioner McGeehan,
Here.
Commissioner Brooks. Here. All are present.
All right, thank you. All right, next up is approval of the agenda.
Mayor and Commissioner, I do have one item that we'd like to bring back at the May 8th meeting, and that's item under contracts and agreements, item 18, excuse me, 18 is the adjournment. Excuse me, item 14A, Code Enforcement Satellite Office. Bring back at the May 8th meeting an agreement to, item to approve an agreement to proceed with that project.
Okay, so you want to take it off of,
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll bring it back at the May 8th meeting.
okay. I guess we need a motion.
That's the only change that I have.
Okay, and anybody else have any changes?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as written with the exception of item 14A, Code Enforcement Satellite Office will be rescheduled to May 8th.
All right, thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, thank you. City Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Vice Mayor Kerr,
Yes.
Commissioner Taglerini.
Yes.
Mayor Rostick,
Yes.
Commissioner McGeehan,
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks.
Yes.
The motion carried 5-0.
All right, thank you. Next up is the March 19th, 2024 municipal election certified official election results, City of Madeira Beach Charter Amendment.
The clerk will go over the results of the election.
All right, thank you.
I think as everyone is aware, on March 19th, there was an election. We had one item on Madeira Beach or about the city of Madeira Beach, and that was to amend the city charter to change the candidate qualifying period to the first full week of December instead of the first 2 full weeks. The item did not pass. The total number of votes cast were 665. There were 236 votes for yes and 429 votes for no.
Thank you, Robin. My computer's still spinning.
And of course, those results were certified by the Pinellas County Supervisor of Elections office and the canvassing board, and that is included in the agenda packet. And I think the agenda packet begins with, it's in alphabetical, well, in the order by items, but if you just scroll down multiple pages, eventually you get to the Madeira Beach.
It's our item 5A, page 5.
Yeah. Yeah, under Clearwater. Anything, I think that's all clear
That's it.
to cover.
Yes, sir. That's the official results there. It was the unofficial results at the workshop.
Correct.
All right. Well, next item up, it's time to appoint a new vice chair. Appointment of a vice mayor.
Why don't you let me just go ahead and go over this? This is under City Charter, Section 4.4, titled Vice Mayor. It provides the Board of Commissioners shall appoint a vice mayor at the first regular meeting following the election. The term of vice mayor shall be for 1 year. The vice mayor shall act as mayor during the absence or disability of the mayor. Should the vice mayor be required to act as mayor for a period in excess of 30 days, he or she shall receive compensation of the mayor retroactive to the date upon which he or she assumed the mayoral duties. So tonight, it would just be either a nomination or a motion, however you want to do that, to appoint the vice mayor.
Okay. Commissioners.
The question I have, is it someone different? It always has to be somebody different?
Not
Is that true?
The charter doesn't say that, but that's been
That's the intent.
historically what has happened.
Historical? Well, then I'd like to nominate Anne Marie Brooks.
Okay.
I second that.
All right. City Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Vice Mayor Kerr,
Yes.
Commissioner Taglerini,
Yes.
Mayor Rostack,
Yes.
Commissioner McGinn,
Yes.
and Commissioner Taglerini. Commissioner Brooks.
Yes.
Yes. The motion carried 5-0.
Congratulations.
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 Congrats.
And I would also like to thank Vice Mayor Kerr, outgoing, for his support, assistance, and dedication to the position, and for covering for me in my absence for the past month. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
All right, next up are proclamations. I have none. And then up from there is presentations. We have a presentation of the FY 2023 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report.
Sure, I'll give introduction. So our FY 2023 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report, or ACFR, the audit has been completed and the ACFR issued. The audit work was performed by James Moore and Company. Here with me is a partner, Zach Chalifer, to give you a presentation on those audit results. I just want to thank Zach and his team for their efforts. It was a very smooth audit this year, got done, in fact, even a little earlier than we have in years past. Usually it's towards more the end of March. This felt like a little more towards mid-March. Also want to thank my team for their diligent efforts in getting all the audit prep work completed timely to facilitate a rather smooth audit this year. So thanks all around for both the auditors and the auditees that were involved in the process. And now I'll just turn it over to Zach to deliver the presentation on audit results. And it has a PowerPoint presentation I'll go over.
All right. Good evening, Zach Chalifor, partner James Moore and Company. As Andrew mentioned, a little bit earlier this year in the wrap-up phase, but this has been kind of the consistent timing for the presentation. Really about, for the most part, just about as early as it could be. There's certain items that we have to wait on from the state and so forth to bring everything to a final close. So likewise, we appreciate all of the help from your team, as well as always, we appreciate the opportunity to work with the city. This is our, I believe, 4th year as your external auditors. I'm going to walk through the PowerPoint presentation. Keep it pretty high level as I go through, though. Feel free to jump in with any questions, and of course, more than glad at the end to answer any questions as well. As is noted in the agenda item on that next slide, the city does prepare what's called an ACFR, or an Annual Comprehensive Report. This really goes above and beyond the minimum requirements, set forth by state statute, what has to be in your audited financial statements. Every year, staff submits that document to the Government Finance Officers Association for evaluation of compliance with the program requirements. The 2022 fiscal year ACFR was awarded the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting, reflecting that the city met those enhanced reporting requirements, and we expect the current year once again to receive that award, as those same elements are in here this year. These are management's financial statements, and there's 4 reports that we issue that really summarize the results of the audit. The first is the report on the financial statements at the very front of the document. We did issue an unmodified opinion that the city's financial statements are fairly presented in all material respects. This is the best opinion that we can issue. What you want to see, effectively a clean opinion that the numbers can be relied upon. The reports in the back are more of the qualitative side of the audit, where while the second report, while we do not audit the city's internal controls, there's separate audit engagements outside of a financial audit that would do that. we do consider the internal controls over key financial areas, accounts payable, payroll, those that have a major financial impact, as well as just the kind of evaluation of staff being able to produce these statements, have all the numbers where they should be. So if, we have a major adjustment and say, hey, this was wrong, we had to fix it, those could also be cases where we would have to report an internal control comment on those items. We had no comments in this report this year related to internal control. And then also, if we come across any material compliance issues, generally related to debt, budget, grants, or otherwise, those would get reported here as well. We had no modifications or comments on either side in this report this year. The third report looks at various items required by the state of Florida, kind of the catch-all to say, the state wants to know if there's any, negative financial trends, things like that, that we would have to raise certain red flags. If that were the case, there were no such items to that effect identified. As we'll get to, the city's in a strong financial position. There's also a catch-all for any other items, comments, recommendations. The one item here we had related to the building department fund. We had this same comment last year related to a state statute looking at what are the carry forward limitations in that fund and that balance being a little bit over that threshold. So really just kind of notating that as an FYI that we did note that to be over what that statutory limit is as of 9/30/2023. We had one comment last year that was corrected this year. And then the final report, we have to look at the city's compliance with state statutes related to investment activity, investment policies, and did note the city to be in compliance with that statute. On the next slide, we have a 4-year trend of your general fund balance, really kind of your primary operating reserves, looking at assets minus liabilities in the general fund. As you can see, pretty much flat year over year from fiscal year 22 to 23. And the bulk of those unrestricted reserves fall into those bottom two lines, the assigned plus the unassigned fund balance. The committed is primarily made up of your emergency reserve. So the remainder, again, unrestricted residual fund balance comes down to those bottom two lines. And on the next slide, what I always like to do is say the dollars are great, but let's compare that to the size of the budget and kind of say, okay, what is here when looking at everything in totality? And looking at about $13.5 million in fund balance relative to what you spent in the current year of $15.8 million, about an 85% number. That is down from the prior year. Some of that's just timing as you have normal fluctuations, expenses were higher. That bottom line, unassigned, assigned fund balance was a bit lower this year, but in total, 85%, about 10 or so months in reserves. The GFOA does recommend a bare minimum of 2 months. So you guys, of course, are over that. I always emphasize the fact that it's a bare minimum recommendation. And when you factor in, being relatively small, being coastal, it's really a matter of preparing for those contingencies and what ifs to say, well, hey, what could go wrong? What do we want to make sure that we have on hand to kind of be ready for what, the unknown, whether it's, COVID a few years ago, hurricanes, things of that nature. So overall, the city, again, in a strong financial position. On the next slide, looking at your business type funds, what we look at here is your unrestricted net position. Again, a very similar bottom line number, really to focus on, do we have any negative balances and how are the trends looking? All three of your existing proprietary funds moving in a positive direction. So that's always, kind of what we want to see there, inflationary type increases. And then of note this year, of course, your parking fund was separated. So that now shows as an enterprise fund on a standalone basis to see all of the direct revenue and expenses associated with that function. And then lastly, a few catch-all items, your building fund and other governmental funds. As always, most of those restricted dollars, those are tracked in separate funds to have the accountability and transparency overseeing how those funds are being used. All positive fund balances there. So no kind of, hey, there's a deficit to be aware of. Everything, it has a positive fund balance at year end. And then I always like to touch on the net pension liability related to the Florida retirement system from the standpoint that we do present a liability to the tune of about $3 million called your net pension liability. But the real impact of that, I call it an exercise in accounting principals, governmental accounting, because while we show that liability, the real obligation of the city is every month based on payroll, you remit contributions to the state for that retirement plan. And normally the way I kind of look at it is when that liability goes up or goes down, if it goes up and it's high, that generally means that when new contribution rates come out effective July 1st, that we can probably expect to see some of an increase. So as we've had that liability, we've had increased rates about 1% or so the last few years on average. But again, that $3 million big number in there is really just for informational purposes. It's not one where the city will have to go and write a check. Again, your ongoing obligation is those monthly contributions relative to payroll. So those are the highlights. Again, wanted to be quick, but more than glad to dive in deeper anywhere as necessary.
I'll jump in for just a second. Looks like on our page 107, which is the report page 92, it's got 2022-001, impact fee accounting, corrective action taken. Is that what you referred to earlier?
Correct.
Ah, okay. All right.
So if you had to give the city a grade, how are we doing?
We're not supposed to, we always have to say the audit report is the audit report. I don't think the AICPA attorneys would like having grades, but absolutely, everything moving in the right direction financially, healthy level of reserves. So there's not much we could say, hey, this is a problem here, or here's an issue, or here's something not moving in the right direction. So probably as close as an A as I could get to without actually saying it, because again, we're probably not supposed to.
Understood. Thank you.
Commissioners, any other questions? Okay. Is there any public comment on this? All right. Well, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank y'all.
Next up is public comment for any items that are not on the agenda. If you'd like to come up and speak to us, we'd love to hear what you have to say. Okay, no public comment. We'll move on then. Next item up is approval of the minutes. We have letter A, 2024-03 from 0313, 2024-0327, and 2024-0327. We had a regular meeting, special meeting, and then a regular workshop. Commissioners? We need approval of the minutes.
I read over them. I'd like to make a motion that we approve the minutes as written.
Great. Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Well, thank you. City Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Kerr,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brooks,
Yes.
Commissioner Taglerini.
Yes.
Mayor Rostack,
Yes.
Commissioner McGeehan.
Yes.
The motion carried 5-0.
All right, thank you. Next up is the consent agenda. It doesn't appear that we have anything, so we can just cross that one off, and then we would go to our public hearings. We have ordinance 2024-04, special magistrate code enforcement first reading and public hearing. City Attorney?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is ordinance 2024-04, an ordinance of the city of Madeira Beach, Florida, amending Division 2, enforcement by special magistrate of Article 7, code enforcement of the Code of Ordinances of the city of Madeira Beach to reflect the changes that have been adopted in Chapter 162 Florida statutes, deleting Section 2-380, priority of liens, and renumbering subsequent sections, providing for conflict, providing for codification, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. That was the first reading of ordinance 2024-04 by title only. This is the ordinance that was discussed at the March 27th workshop meeting. This is, as the title says, just to update our code in relation to updates in the Florida statutes.
All right, thank you. First up is the public comment on this. Do we have any public comment? All right, public comment is closed. Commissioners,
I don't have any questions.
do we have a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance 2024-04, special magistrate code enforcement.
All right, thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you kindly. City Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Kerr,
Yes.
Commissioner Taglerini.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brooks,
Yes.
Commissioner McGeehan.
Yes.
Mayor Rostick,
Yes.
the motion carried 5-0.
All right, thank you. Next up is 12B, ordinance 2024-06, special magistrate compensation, first reading and public hearing. City Attorney?
Thank you, Mayor. This is ordinance 2024-06, an ordinance of the city of Madeira Beach, Florida, amending section 2-502, appointment and removal of Article 8, Special Magistrate of Chapter 2, Administration of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Madeira Beach, to amend the approval process for the rate of compensation of the special magistrate, providing for conflict, providing for codification, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. That was the first reading of ordinance 2024-06 by title only. This also was discussed at the March 27th workshop. The purpose of this ordinance is just to make it consistent in the special magistrate variance code section as we do in the code enforcement section.
All right, thank you. Is there any public comment on this first? All right, nobody coming up. Public comment, we will close. Commissioners? Do we have a motion then?
I move that we pass ordinance 2024-06, special magistrate compensation.
Do we have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Thank you kindly. City Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Taglerini,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brooks,
Yes.
Mayor Rostick,
Yes.
Commissioner McGeehan,
Yes.
Commissioner Kerr,
Yes.
the motion carried 5-0.
All right, thank you. Next up is item 12C, Charlie. Ordinance 2024-05, Fees and Collections Procedures Manual, FY 2024, update, first reading and public hearing.
Mayor, Commissioners, this is ordinance 2024-05, an ordinance of the city of Madeira Beach, Florida, adopting the Fees and Collection Procedures Manual, repealing ordinance 2023-18, providing for conflict, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. That was the first reading of ordinance 2024-05 by title only. This ordinance also was discussed at the March 27th workshop meeting.
All right, thank you very much. Is there any public comment on this? If you'd like to talk, we'd love to hear what you have to say. All right, public comment is closed, Commissioners.
In summary, it just added the building safety milestone report review fee for $250. Is that correct?
Yes.
I don't have any comment.
Do we have a motion?
I move we pass ordinance 2024-05, fees and collection manual update fiscal year 2024.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, City Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Kerr,
Yes.
Commissioner McGeehan,
Yes.
Commissioner Taglerini,
Yes.
Mayor Rostick,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brooks,
Yes.
the motion carried 5-0.
All right, thank you. Next up is ABP 2024-02, Dockside Dave's Restaurant. City Attorney?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Commissioners, this is a quasi judicial hearing, so I just want to go through the process with you as we normally do on applications for alcoholic beverage permits. So first of all, the applicant in this case is Dockside Dave's Real Estate LLC. The summary of the application is as follows. The applicant for the ABP 2024-02 is requesting authorization from the Board of Commissioners for the approval of a special food service establishment for COP, alcoholic beverage license for the sale of beer, wine, and liquor for consumption on the premises at the existing Dockside Dave's Restaurant located at 14701 Gulf Boulevard, Madeira Beach, Florida. The standards to be applied in this application, review this application, are as follows. They're set forth in 110-532 of the code. And it reads as follows. When considering the alcoholic beverage application, the Board of Commissioners shall consider the following factors. Number one, the extent to which the location and the extent to which the proposed alcoholic beverage request will adversely affect the character of the existing neighborhood. Number two, the extent to which traffic generated as a result of the location of the proposed alcoholic beverage request will create congestion or present a safety hazard. Number three, whether or not the proposed use is compatible with the particular location for which is proposed. Number four, whether or not the proposed use will adversely affect public safety. And number five, no application for review under this section shall be considered until the applicant has paid in full all outstanding charges, fees, interest, fines, or penalties owed by the applicant to the city under any section of the code. So The burden of proof, that you're to place against the criteria are as follows, are set forth in section 2-10 of your code. The applicant shall have the burden of proof at the hearing to show by greater weight of the evidence that the application is consistent with the city's comprehensive plan and complies with all procedural requirements of law. Conditions may be suggested by the applicant, the city, or any party, or may be imposed by the board, which are intended to assure consistency and compliance. As I mentioned before, the parties are Dockside Dave's Real Estate LLC and also the city. The order of presentation is normally by the applicant, but because there is no other affected parties, we're going to switch that around. We're going to allow the city to proceed first with this presentation, followed by the applicant. And I'm going to read the quasi-judicial procedures now that you are going to need to follow. This is a quasi-judicial proceeding where the Board of Commissioners acts in a quasi-judicial rather than a legislative capacity. At this hearing, it is not the board's function to make law, but rather to apply law that has already been established. In this quasi-judicial hearing, the board is required by law to make findings of fact based upon the evidence presented at the hearing and apply those findings of fact to previously established criteria contained in the Code of Ordinances in order to make a legal decision regarding the application before it. The board may only consider evidence at this hearing that the law considers competent, substantial, and relevant to the issues. If the competent, substantial, and relevant evidence at the hearing demonstrate that the applicant has met the criteria established in the Code of Ordinances, then the board is required by law to find in favor of the applicant. By the same token, if the competent, substantial, and relevant evidence at the hearing demonstrates that the applicant has failed to meet the criteria established in the Code of Ordinances, then the board is required by law to find against the applicant. I need to ask each one of you, the commissioners and the mayor, whether or not there are any ex parte communications with the applicant.
No.
No?
No.
Okay. Thank
No.
you. Any conflicts of interest that anybody needs to disclose?
No.
No.
Okay. All right, with that in mind, Mayor, I'm going to go ahead and swear in any witnesses that are going to testify today. If you could stand up, raise your right hand. I'm going to swear you under oath, sir. You swear the testimony you're about to give tonight is going to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, with that said, then we're going to go ahead and, sir, why don't you introduce yourself and you could sit
Yes.
down?
Yes. Good evening. My name is Brandon Nazario. I'm the new owner of Dockside Dave's, and it's nice to finally sit in front of everybody and get to familiarize with all of you. And I'd love to answer any questions you have.
Okay, we're going to let the city go ahead and proceed. Why don't you take a seat and we'll call you back up if you, in just a few minutes. So Joe, are you going to be doing this? Okay.
Yes. Okay, so I have the memorandum, which I'll read for everyone. Okay. So meeting details, April 10th, 2024, BOC regular meeting prepared for Mayor Rostek and Board of Commissioners from Community Development Department. Subject public hearing for special food service establishment 4 COP alcoholic beverage license application number 2024-02 for Dockside Dave's Restaurant located at 14701 Gulf Boulevard, Madeira Beach, Florida, 33708. Background, pursuant to the Land Development Code, Article V1, Division 6, alcoholic beverages, the applicant for ABP 2024-02 is requesting authorization from the Board of Commissioners for the approval of a special food service establishment 4 COP alcoholic beverage license for sale of beer, wine, and liquor for consumption on premises at the Dockside Dave's Restaurant located at 14701 Gulf Boulevard, Madeira Beach, Florida, 33708. This establishment is located in the C3 Retail Commercial Zoning District. The future land use designation for this property is residential office retail. Section 110-534 of Madeira Beach Code of Ordinances requires the approval of the Board of Commissioners for an existing alcoholic beverage zoned property to change to an alcoholic beverage license of greater intensity. The new application would be reviewed for all factors located under the section 110-532 pursuant section 110-539. The notice of public hearing has been properly sent to all property owners within 300 feet of the subject property 15 days before the scheduled consideration of the Board of Commission. Such notice has also been posted on the subject property at the Gulf Beaches Public Library, City Hall, and the City of Madeira Beach website. Discussion. When considering the alcoholic beverage license application, the Board of Commissioners shall consider the following factors. 1, the extent to which the location and the extent to which the proposed alcohol beverage request will adversely affect the character of the existing neighborhood. Section 110-534 of Madeira Beach Code of Ordinances requires the approval by the Board of Commissioners to change to an alcohol beverage license of greater intensity. The applicant is applying for a special food service establishment 4 COP alcoholic beverage license to be able to sell liquor alongside the current beer and wine offerings. Permitting Dockside Dave's Restaurant of Madeira Beach to add liquor to the menu for consumption on premises would not adversely affect the character of the existing neighborhood. The existing neighborhood is mostly commercial uses, and the existing restaurant already has a 2 COP alcohol license to serve beer and wine on the premises. Additionally, the Reef Bar and Grill next door already serves liquor. Criteria 2 is the extent to which traffic generated as a result of the location of the proposed alcohol beverage request will create congestion or present a safety hazard. The minimum parking requirements of this property meet the requirements, which are in section 110-971. Adding liquor to the menu should not create an additional traffic congestion, as the business has been in operation for over a decade and the use is not changing. Additional traffic and congestion should not be created by the proposed alcohol use. The proposed alcohol use does not present a safety hazard. Criteria 3, whether or not the proposed use is compatible with the particular location for which it is proposed. This proposed alcohol use is compatible with the location. The Reef Bar and Grill next door already serves liquor. This application is to permit liquor to be sold at the existing restaurant. Any future expansion of the square footage of alcohol use will require the applicant to send in a new permit application pursuant to section 110-535, expansion of alcohol beverage zoning in the Madeira Beach Code of Ordinances. The owner confirmed he will be applying for a new petition for an alcohol beverage license once the building plans for a new renovated restaurant are completed. Criteria 4, whether or not the proposed use will adversely affect the public safety. Public safety should not be adversely affected by Dockside Dave's Restaurant serving liquor for consumption on premises. The restaurant is more than 300 feet away from any established church, synagogue, temple, or place of religious worship, public or private school, operated for the instruction of minors or youth recreation community center. This 300-foot requirement is the minimum distance required for bars and clubs located in the C3 zoning district and does not need to be met for restaurants, which Dockside Dave's is classified as. Criteria 5, no application for review under this section shall be considered until the applicant has paid in full any outstanding charges, fees, interests, fines, or penalties owed by the applicant to the city under any section of the code. The applicant has no outstanding fines or penalties owed to the city under any section of the code. Fiscal impact that is not applicable. Staff recommendations. Staff recommends the approval of a special food service establishment 4 COP alcoholic beverage license with the stated intent to sell beer, wine, and liquor for consumption on premise at the Dockside Dave's Restaurant. And then in the agenda packet, we have the application, which is pages 201 through 203. The application is 204 through 209. The property owner's written approval is pages 210 and 211. They provided a survey and site plan on page 212. And then the mailing labels that were sent out are pages 213 through 219. Public notice on the following 2 pages, 220, 221. Affidavit of mailing and posting on 222, 223. And then the notice of intent to be an affected party that was sent out was on 224, and the posting pictures are on page 225.
Are you requesting that the report be received into evidence?
Yes,
Okay. Were there any notices of intent filed on this application?
no, they were not.
Did the city receive any written correspondence on this application?
No.
Okay. Mayor, Commissioner, any questions of city staff before we move to the next step?
No questions here. Commissioner?
We'll have a time to ask questions of the owner at
Yes.
some point, right? Yeah,
Yep.
thank you.
Okay, no questions of city staff. Thank you. Sir, if you could step to the podium for a moment, please. You'll be given the opportunity to tell the commission whatever you want to tell in just a minute, but now is your opportunity to cross-examine or ask any questions of city staff if you have them. Do you have any questions of city staff?
I do not.
Okay, thank you. All right, city has no other witnesses to call?
No.
Okay, sir, now is your opportunity to tell the commission anything you want about this application. Okay,
There is nothing at the moment that I have to say. I think I got it all written down for you guys. If there's anything that you want to hear from me, I'd be more than happy to answer it for you.
okay. So commission, do you have any questions of the applicant?
Yeah, it mentions the owner confirmed that he will be applying for a new petition for an alcohol beverage license once the building plans for new renovation restaurant are completed. You have plans to renovate the restaurant? And may I ask what kind of renovation is it going to be? Is it still gonna, you're not making it a bar, you're still keeping it a restaurant, right?
Very much a restaurant,
Right,
just expanding a little bit. We
Uh-huh.
bought the property next door as well.
okay,
So we're
Okay.
kind of mixing the two together.
got it. And do you have any plans to change your hours of operation?
At this moment, no.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Mayor, Commissioners, now it's back to the commission. Well, let's ask the public first. See if there's any-
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Is there any public comment on this? Seeing none, we'll close public comment and then back to the commission.
I thought they already had it.
Okay,
I did too.
to the attorney, now we need a motion, correct?
Yes.
Okay,
And
do we
you
have a
staff
motion?
recommendation that is in the packet
Correct.
on page 203.
Mhm.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the application for the for the 4COP alcoholic beverage license application, 2024-02.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, city clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Kerr,
Yes.
Commissioner McGeehan,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brooks,
Yes.
Mayor Rostick,
Yes.
Commissioner Taglerini.
Yes.
The motion carried 5-0.
All right, thank you. All right.
Congratulations.
Next up, we have unfinished business, resolution 2024-02, and then the BOC policy handbook. I guess the resolution, that'll be coming, that's coming to the next workshop, I believe.
No, that's on the agenda tonight.
Oh, okay.
This is resolution 2024-02, a resolution of the Board of Commissioners of the City of Madeira Beach, Florida, amending the Board of Commissioners policy handbook, repealing resolution 2023-05, and providing for an effective date. There was a reading of resolution 2024-02. And I don't know if Robin or Clara wants to give any input on the changes that were made.
As we discussed at the last workshop back on the 27th of March, just some small changes in your handbook. Of course, this is an opportunity for you to make any other changes that you would like to make, but the minor changes that were made were removing the staff reports section in the order of the agenda. And Clara, you can help me with the second
And we made.
roll call vote. I'm sorry.
Yeah, approval
Right.
of the minutes separate.
The approval of the minutes is separate also in your agenda. It's not under the consent agenda. And then the roll call votes, those are rotated, so they're not the same each time or very similar in that the last person voting was the mayor. So now they would be on a rotational basis for any roll call vote.
Correct.
If I can get a start, or you want to go public first?
Yes, any public comment on this first? All right, public comments closed. Commissioner?
Okay, I have two different items. First is the change to the roll call on a rotated basis, including the mayor. Page 45, no, 399 in the Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised 12th edition. Second paragraph, the roll is, and this is on roll call voting. The roll is called in alphabetical order, except that the presiding officer's name is called last, and only when the vote will affect the result. In my mind, the mayor casting his vote last as representing the city at large versus each commissioner representing each district kind of makes sense to me. And that supports it. I know we've never done by alphabetical order, but it still makes sense to me that the mayor would cast his vote last, but I could be overruled on that. I'm just wanted to point out that it is referenced in Robert's Rules of Order.
Sorry, I'm having a hard time. It's a big book. Page 399.
399, 45.
You mentioned that if the final vote affects the outcome, that is what I've heard in the past, is that some boards, the mayor casts the tie-breaking vote, in which case that's what it becomes. If it's not a tie-breaking vote,
That's correct.
then it's not necessarily to be last.
Well, how do we know if it's a tie-breaking vote unless all the other
You-
four have voted?
You would not know that.
You wouldn't.
You're not supposed to know that. How about
Right.
that?
But I'm just saying, I
You're
mean,
not
it's,
supposed to know that.
it's perceived that by voting last, you have an opportunity to vote, cast a vote that wouldn't affect the change, but may be politically motivated, you know?
Yes.
That's what it comes down to. So since again, that would, in my mind, since the mayor is at large, be okay.
Keep in mind that you also vote, even though you each represent a district, you are voting for ordinances, resolutions that impact the entire.
Absolutely,
city.
and just like any other branch of government would be the same.
Correct.
You know, just because you represent a certain state in the Senate, when you cast a vote, it's for whatever that is, which affects the full country. It's the same thing here. But I'm just reading it out of Robert's Rules, and that's what I remember when we had our class on this last year or the year before, whenever we had it, which was the memory from Commissioner Taglerini was different, but that's what my memory was.
Thanks.
But
Well,
it's,
I mean, we were elected at large, even though we run by district. And it seems to me, I mean, I was at that training and I went to one more in Gainesville not too long ago. And your colleague presented this and I asked him this question and he couldn't, it seemed like he couldn't give me a clear answer that it had to be last. And that was what I took away from that. Does anybody else have any feelings about this? Unless city attorney has some strong interpretation of this that says, no, the mayor must be last. I'm still in favor of rotating.
So you get to decide how you're going to do this. Just because you have the Robert's Rules of Order as your fallback, this is your rule.
Yeah.
So your rule will take place before you apply Robert's rules. So if you have a rule on it, we're not going to look to Robert's rules. So don't get hung up on the fact that Robert's Rules is saying that we're going to do it this way. Keep in mind why Robert's Rules was created. It was not created for local governments. It was never intended to be for local governments. It was for big corporations or big associations, not a 5-member board with whatever, 4,000 residents. You know, that's not what it was created for. So you decide how you want to do it and we'll include it in the rules of procedure, but don't think that you're stuck because Robert's rules
No,
of order
I-
provide
I-
that way.
More of a-
So if I could just maybe explain a little bit more. Our current Board of Commissioners, I think, works very well together.
Mhm.
And we have an amicable relationship. We don't always agree on how things should be run, but we get along very well. I've seen in the past situations where the mayor or the chair of the board would use his or her last vote as leverage in a way to, or even to make a point, even though knowing they'll be the only what yes or no is what I'm saying. In a situation like this where we are elected at large, represent the entire city, I just would like to see a situation where no one member could use that last vote as leverage or to make a statement or to make a point about something. I'd love to hear Mayor Rostek's point of view about this. I think you've done a great job so far as mayor. That's just a feeling I've had, and I'm not necessarily concerned about this board. I'm looking at boards in the future where a mayor might use that last vote to advantage or leverage his point or his position. So I'm in favor of leaving the rotating vote.
I could go either way. It really doesn't matter to me.
I don't care either way that we go. I think that we had discussed this way back even before our last workshop. And I think I was under the impression that we were going to rotate through names and it just never got implemented. I would caution that we are approving these rules for this commission. And if another commission comes in, they can undo what we do. So that being said, I am good either way. I think that if that's what you want, I understand what you're wanting to get accomplished. I mean, it's only for a year to see how that works and whether or not it creates an effective change for the community as well, to see that that is not how we are voting and what we are doing.
And the next
Yeah,
board can have this same
correct.
discussion.
That is correct.
Right.
Yeah, I also agree. Either way, I'm fine with whether we rotate or whether we call it out, as Commissioner Kerr said. You know, we represent each district for a vote, and then, you know, the mayor could be the fifth vote. So I'm fine either way if we rotate. So it's for the next year.
I guess I'm just comfortable because that's the way it's been since I've been on the board. That's the way I recall.
It's
Oh,
been since the eight. I went
been-
back in history. It was just something that
So,
just carried on.
so if this change is ratified, it would be something that's been different. It would be a new procedure,
Mhm.
Yes.
different
But
than
it's-
custom. And I oppose the change personally. But before we go to to that vote, it just seemed cumbersome for the city clerk as well. Because historically, she would call whoever made the motion first for their vote, whoever seconded the motion second, she would at will select the other two commissioners and the mayor last. And it just seemed to have a flow and work to it. And I don't see a big issue as far as the mayor being able to cast an opposing vote just for political reasons or whatever, however you want to put it. So I mentioned what I thought on that.
So I have a question then. Robin or Mr. Trask, would you have an idea of other communities and their customary way of doing it? Are we talking about doing something that is far different than other people? In this case, I think that the change is not going to affect this commission because this commission doesn't have the issues that Commissioner Taglerini is talking about, but do other municipalities vote in this manner?
My recollection is yes, there are other municipalities. I don't know if it was city, I believe it was City of Tarpon Springs and City of Dunedin that have done that in the past. But they're bigger cities, obviously.
Mhm.
And but that's my recollection. It's been a while, so.
But many cities do the rotation as well. And so I think more do that than have the mayor as the last vote, but we'd
Yeah.
have to,
When I looked it
go
up, the
through
ones I
meetings.
saw were like we were doing it now,
Yeah,
but I did see
rotation.
where they was doing yay and nay and, different ways. They were just
Right.
doing it different. I think, and this is the time where you rewrite your rules. You're right. You're correct on that, Robin. But I did see yay and nay too.
Right. I will tell you that there are few cities where usually the mayor votes last, or that's how it's designed when you have the mayor cast a tie-breaking vote. So the city that I came from, a mayor plus 6 commissioners, but the mayor only voted when it was a 3-3 vote. So, which is not what I would recommend or advocate because can be very political, but that seems to be kind of more common to have the mayor vote last. But again, as you stated, however you would like to proceed, you're never if it's a rotation, I think you avoid what Commissioner Taglerini said. You are making a change if you go to this, but I don't think it's a huge change that has a negative impact. I think it has a little bit more positive, but change is change and we all kind of handle change a little differently.
Okay. Well, we'll set that to the side for a minute. Because once we make the vote to either ratify the changes or to take exception, is it like the vote we took on the second reading of John's Pass Village, where if you vote against it, none of the changes happen and you can't go back to it?
That's correct. So this is the time to get a consensus from the commission as
Yep.
to all the changes to make make your motion subject to that consensus.
Okay.
If you're not happy with the consensus, make your motion and see if it passes. You only
Okay.
need 3.
I have another question before we do that. And it has to do, I handed out the email that I mentioned, or that you had given me advisement on to bring to the commissioners and ask what to do, and it is subject to page 239, section 5, commission conduct with other public agencies. I guess maybe it's not a public agency because it's the lobbyist. But again, it would be, the email that I passed out had to do with, could I have coffee with the lobbyist and discuss items that were on my mind personally? Now, I included the full email so you'd see what that is. This may be something that we take up at a workshop, actually, the information that's in that, the subject, but the reason I bring it up here is how does the board feel about a single board member to talk over coffee about different items that how a resident might have? I don't think there's any restriction. I can't, or no one can ask them to do anything. But it would have to come back to the board. The board would have to tell them to do something, or the city manager, bring it to the city manager. The city manager has that right and ability to do that. But why don't we bring that up at the end of the meeting, and we can discuss that a little bit more, but I wanted to reference this subject, this section, so that you knew what I was talking about when we did that. As far as the motion, I'd like to make the motion to make the changes as presented with the exception of the rotation of the vote.
Okay, do we have a second on that?
I'll second.
Okay, have a second, and city clerk, we call the roll, please.
Yes. Commissioner Kerr,
Yes.
Commissioner McGinn,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brooks,
No.
Mayor Rostick,
Yes.
Commissioner Taglerini.
No.
The motion carried 3-2.
All right, thank you. Next up, the one item was pulled, so we're now at up to 14B, RFQ 2312, Planning Services to create and implement a new city master plan.
Yes, hello and good evening. So we are bringing forward RFQ 23-12 as the master plan. In your packet, we have the updated scope of services that's on pages 299 through 310. And that has the updates from our last workshop. And then also in your packet, you will see the consulting and design services agreement with Kimley Horn, and that's on pages 311 through 319. We also have Hannah Schaefer here with Kimley Horn if you have any questions.
So this would just be a motion to approve the agreement and the scope of services in the agenda packet.
Okay. First up, is there any public comment on this? All right, public comment is closed. Nobody came forward. Commissioners? Vice Mayor?
I'm just looking forward to the process and hopefully, I see here that, we have public engagement, and community workshops. And a master plan can't be developed with a lot of that. It seems to be a bit limited in my opinion, but you have 3 interactive community forums over a year, but I would imagine they're kind of concentrated at some point after you collect all your data. So I'm just I'm excited for the process.
I am also.
Okay, would someone like to make a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the RFQ 2312 Planning Services to create and implement a new city master plan.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Just want to make sure that that motion would include the consulting and design services agreement and the scope of services that are in the agenda packet too.
Yes, it does.
Thank you.
I'll second.
All right, thank you. City Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Vice Mayor Brooks,
Yes.
Commissioner Kerr,
Yes.
Commissioner Taglerini,
Yes.
Commissioner McGeehan,
Yes.
Mayor Rostick.
Yes.
The motion carried 5-0.
All right, thank you. Next up is item 14, Charlie, ITB 2023-14, Coastal Groin Restoration Approval. Good evening.
Evening, Mayor and Commissioners. So what I bring before you today is the RFP 2023-14. We did talk about this at the March 27th workshop. Staff went out to bid for the restoration of the 22 beach groins that we have out on the beach. I can go through all the details again, Mayor. I know that you weren't here at the last meeting. We did have 9 submittals. We then went through each and every one of those, found that Spieler Companies was the most responsible vendor, and staff is recommending approval of the contract.
I've reviewed everything. It looks
Perfect.
good.
Thank you.
Is there any public comment on this first, though? All right, no public comment, then we will go back to the commission, commissioners. Would we like to make a motion then, please?
I'll make a motion to approve ITB 2023-14 Coastal Groin Restoration approval of the contract with Spieler Associates.
All right, thank you very much.
Second?
All right, we have a second. City Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Kerr,
Yes.
Commissioner Taglerini,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brooks,
Yes.
Commissioner McGeehan,
Yes.
Mayor Rostick.
Yes.
The motion carried 5-0.
All right, thank you. All right, next up is item Approval to, D, approval to surplus and purchase a truck. I believe that's up next.
Yes, good evening again. This is to surplus 3 trucks and to purchase a new truck. So we have 2 trucks that have been replaced. We've just held on to because we've had issues with truck number 23. 23 is a 2023 Kenworth that we've had a ton of issues with. So I'm requesting that we surplus that truck, trade it in for a brand new 2024 rear load truck. And even with the surplus and the purchase, we still will receive 86,000. Let me see, $86,328 back to the sanitation fund.
Right. Is there any public comment on this? All right, no public comment. Commissioners?
So this is the deal where we trade in 3, get 1 plus cash for our fund.
That is correct.
Okay.
Only question I have, is it a cab and chassis issue or is it a Packer box issue?
It has been both.
It has been both.
Currently, the most issues we've had with the Packer, but originally it was with the chassis.
Okay.
So
Other
I would like to just say that I had the pleasure of riding along with sanitation for 2 days. I went out one day in the claw truck and got the opportunity to experience the residents interacting with the driver and just the amount of work that they do in the claw truck on the, when they pick up the yard waste. And what the other truck does when it is picking up the smaller piles by hand, it was very impressive. And the second day that I went out, I was able to ride along and watch the trash commercial pickup. I would encourage anyone on the commission to take the time to go out. It is unbelievable the amount of work that those men do and what they have to push and pull. And it was really an incredible day, both days. So kudos, which I mean, they work hard. That is hard work. And some of the dumpsters that they're pulling out of these enclosures, the dumpster itself weighs a couple 100 pounds before you ever put anything in it. And they're not pulling it along smooth concrete or pavement. They're pulling out where there are ruts, where they fall into the rut, where they have to physically pick them up. They're hundreds and hundreds of pounds. And the staff that we have that works in sanitation, I think we're really lucky. And the amount of work that they do, if we go back and think about when we discussed the possibility of considering outsourcing our sanitation, there is no way, in my opinion, that any other company would provide us the level of service that that small group of people, it's all men now except for you and Allie. I can't even impress on you that when you see them, be sure that you thank them and watch what they're doing. Just sit back and it's outstanding. Thank you.
They had fun with you out there with them.
Amazing.
It was fun.
Any other comments in reference to the award, the approval and surplus?
I think Director Webford has taken lemons to made lemonade because were definitely lemons, what she's explained. So,
Do we have a motion then?
I would like to make a motion
All right. For approval to surplus and
for
purchase the
approval
truck.
of the surplus and purchase.
Okay, thank you. All right, do we have a second?
Second.
All right, thank you. City Clerk, will you call the roll, please?
Vice Mayor Brooks,
Yes.
Commissioner Taglerini,
Yes.
Commissioner Kerr,
yes.
Commissioner McGeehan,
Yes.
Mayor Rostack.
Yes.
The motion carried 5-0.
Okay, thank you. Next up is item E is an ECHO engagement letter for magistrate services. City Attorney, is that you?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. So in your packet is the engagement letter for the special magistrate, Mr. Valdez. You remember, he's been your special magistrate since 2016. We need to appoint him on an annualized basis. The hourly rate that he is requesting is $190 per hour. That is the same hourly rate that he's been doing this since 2016. He has not included an increase. So I think that the rate is very, very fair. I would ask that you, if you would approve this special magistrate agreement and so that the city manager can go ahead and execute it. We do have the special magistrate hearing coming up and we need to make sure he's in place by that time.
All right, thank you. Is there any public comment on this? All right, public comments closed. Only comment I have is I've attended several meetings. He seems to be a straight shooter and very fair. Very fair person.
Agree.
Other commissioners, any comments? Do we have a motion then? For the engagement letter for magistrate services?
Move that we approve the engagement letter with City of Madeira Beach for the magistrate.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. City Clerk, we call a roll, please.
Commissioner Taglerini,
Yes.
Commissioner Kerr,
Yes.
Commissioner McGeehan,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brooks,
Yes.
Mayor Rostack. The motion carried 5-0.
All right, next item up is new business and we have nothing there. So then we'll go to agenda setting.
Well, would the new business be what I was talking about on the letter? Or did you want to wait?
I guess we could talk about it now. Yeah.
Well, as I mentioned, City Attorney Trask recommended that I speak to the board on this before I make any gesture. So the email that you see that I had planned to send to RJ is all there. But basically to meet with him, he offered at the legislative update meeting to have a coffee sometime. I'd like to do that. I wanted to send this as a preface to that meeting as one of the items I'd like to talk about. What I could do is that just put on there, I want to send it, well, two questions. Should I send that from my personal email? It's the city lobbyist. He knows that I'm a commissioner. Or do I send it as the commissioner and state that this meeting would be as a representing a private citizen? Or not be concerned about either, but we could bring up the topic at a workshop and see if it's something that the board would like to actually engage the lobbyist in or not. I don't know if you've had a time to think about any of that, but I don't know, just want to get a discussion on that.
Okay. Using your personal email, I would say no, because that exposes your personal email to the public. So I would say definitely use your city email address. I wouldn't have any qualms you making contact. I don't know how anybody else feels.
I have no objection.
I don't have any objection. The only thing I would ask is, and I quickly read this, what you sent to the senator, you sent that as your personal
Yes.
conversation. If you're going to speak with our
Lobbyist.
and you're speaking as a commissioner, I do think we should discuss what's the content of this, that the board agrees with what you're advocating for our lobbyists to do.
Well,
Am I
then it
off
would-
on that?
No, it would be a different type of meeting, I guess.
Yeah, I don't have any issue. I know that as far as developing relationships with anyone in our political world that represents our city or our county, because I know that in past commissions, relationships that were forged from here with those different people are why we have money allotted to us in certain cases. So I think that having the relationship is very important.
And I actually think I mentioned that
Yeah.
in the.
You
um,
did.
Earlier in the email, that it wouldn't be the first time, because I
No,
know
it wouldn't.
prior mayors have made relationships.
I think if I, maybe now that I'm thinking how I worded it, meeting with RJ, I would support, because if I wanted to meet with him, I would hope that that would be supported by the commission also. But if there are things that you feel strongly about that we should be really advocating for, then we should put those on the agenda and discuss them openly so that we can push for that to be advocated for us in Tallahassee.
Well, maybe we should do both.
Yeah, you
Maybe I
should be
should-
on there.
Yeah,
Go ahead and do what I was gonna do.
yep.
But that we could put this on a workshop, next month.
I think that's a great idea.
And
What's the specific, I'm sorry, the agenda
The,
topic?
the agenda topic would be, to advocate for, additional homestead
Oh, okay,
rights, basically is what it is.
okay.
Financially supportive of homestead properties.
I think when you talk to him, what you can get out of
Property
him and
tax.
sitting down with a one-on-one is understanding whether or not he believes those issues would have a chance in Tallahassee based on the political climate that's going on there now. Or, that would be other things. He'll know other things that are going
Oh,
on.
he may look at this and say there's no way,
Right.
because when you combine two, even though they both deal with homestead and property taxes. But I point out that it's been done before, so I don't know, I have a lot to learn, but I wanted to start that with a conversation, so, okay, if everyone agrees, I'm gonna go ahead and reach out to RJ, and I'm not gonna ask him to do anything, I just want to get his feedback.
Just so all of, I mean, there is nothing precluding any of you from requesting to meet with really anyone. That's,
Other than each other.
well, right, but it's been occurring for many, many years. It will occur for many years into the future. As was brought up earlier, you have one-on-one meetings with myself, and so it's sort of similar to that. But yeah, you can meet with any elected official, whether, except up here, but with anyone on the county, another city, the state, federal. We do typically have some coordination for that, but it does not have to be. There's nothing stating that you have to have that, but it's always good for, well, for myself or the attorney if you have any legal questions, but to know that, so it's something that we can add just as you're discussing now to a future agenda, or anything that you would like letters to be written either on behalf of the city through the mayor, or myself as well. So always good to coordinate whatever areas you would like to have our lobbying firm. As RJ spoke, I think it was at the October workshop toward the end of 23, maybe November. He's available to meet with each one of you individually.
Right, okay, well, I thought it was very opportune to bring it, and that's why I wasn't on an agenda item, to bring it up tonight since we were going over the policy handbook
Policy, right.
and making sure I wasn't
Yeah.
reading something that was going to be problematic.
Yeah.
So, very good, thank you.
And Commissioner Kerr, can I get a copy of that email to go
You can
into
have
the
this,
meeting?
you can have the copy I have
Thank
with
you.
me.
I don't think I got a copy.
I only made 5 copies. I wasn't thinking. I knew the city manager and city attorney already had copies.
Unless the city attorney emails it to me.
I'll hand you this
Okay.
one.
All right, next up then is the agenda setting for our workshop. We have ordinance 2024-02, accessory structures, the Bicentennial Park usage, residential parking, beach chairs, umbrellas on the sand in front of Caddy's Restaurant, Reddington Beach's EMS station funding agreement, updates to the fence code, and John's Past Village zoning. And then we're gonna add,
And this item, right?
and this item
homestead
here.
And
Do you have
homestead
anything else
exemption.
to add?
I do want to bring up some thoughts on the marina, but we don't have to do it at this workshop. Is it too early for that?
No, we could,
Let's add
yeah,
it.
sure.
Yeah, as far as the marina development, there's some things out there that I think could be done quickly. That if we all agree on, I don't know that would really be covered, and we don't want to wait a year for the master plan. Some of the items, and then overall just talk about what our visions may be and what if you don't have a vision, you can't create a plan to go back to the state and ask them for approval. So,
When you're talking about our city marina.
city marina.
Okay.
So just some thoughts. Yeah,
Absolutely.
we can talk about that a little bit. That's all I have.
Okay. Anybody else that want to add anything? All right, next up is reports and correspondence, Board of Commissioners. Have anything? All right, City Attorney, you have anything, sir?
Yes, I just wanted to remind you that I issued 2 memos this month, one on the end of the legislative session. And if you have any questions about that, let me know. And I also provided you with a memo relative to a Supreme Court case relative to social media, the use of that. Again, if you have questions about that, let me know. But I want to just remind you that those memos were issued. So, okay. That's all I had, Mayor. Thank you.
All right, thank you. City Clerk, you have a report for us?
I do. I didn't have any history to go in there this time, but I do next month because I was, as we were scanning the old packets and all, we were scanning some of the planning commission meeting packets, and there's an interesting thing in there about the voters did an initiative and put it on the ballot in 1980 and approved limiting the building height by 3 stories and in the R3 zone, and there was something else too. But I don't know how that stands today, but it was very interesting because it's part of our history. And I'll put all that on there. You can read it, and the attorney may add some information to it.
All right. Well, thank you.
In the city clerk's section, she gives us a calendar. And I just wanted to bring up that on September 25th, we have a regular workshop meeting. It looks like September 25th, Wednesday. We have a special meeting that same day too. What is that?
That's the millage rate.
It's, yeah, for the budget, for fiscal 25 budget.
I will not be available on that date. So I don't know if that could be,
I think we could probably have well, I don't know when the county and Laughlin would have to.
I don't know if we
Yeah,
could bring it up any sooner.
We have to adopt
Oh, that's
hours
okay.
after the county and the school board.
Well, we just can't conflict, I think, with their meetings. I don't think there's an order
It's after.
to it, but we just don't want to conflict and have the meetings on the same evening or same date.
I know September 11th, I'm fine. So I don't know if everything could be condensed into the 11th.
We have to have two
Have to have 2 separate.
Yeah.
two
you already-
readings,
Yeah.
2 public hearings. I mean, I guess we could check for an alternate date if that works, either Tuesday, would Tuesday, September 24th?
No,
Or-
it wouldn't. I can get with you one-on-one and we can
Okay,
talk
we can go
about
over it. Sure.
options, and if it can be worked out, great.
Are you unavailable all week? Would the 26th work?
It, basically all week's gonna be
Yeah,
an
that's
issue.
fine. I just thought I'd ask.
I think we can get this worked out. We have plenty of
Yeah.
time. Thank you for the very advanced notice.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, City Manager, what do you have for us, sir?
Just reminders of upcoming meetings or events. We will begin this Saturday, April the 13th, with the first Johns Pass Village and Boardwalk Zoning Public Workshop right here at 10 a.m. And then the next 2 are scheduled for Thursday, April the 18th, at 10 a.m. Forget the time frame. And then Saturday, April the 20th, here as well, at 1 p.m. after we have our Hurricane and Turtle Expo that morning. That begins at 10 a.m. That's from 10 to noon. And then the third public workshop on the Johns Pass Village zoning, beginning at 1 p.m. on Saturday, April 20th. On the following Monday, we will have an Earth Day event, Monday, April the 22nd, beginning at 6 p.m. And that's a beach cleanup from Archibald down to Johns Pass Park. And we have various of our partners, our beautification partners, from the Trash Pirates, Trash Turtles, Coastal Crusaders, Keep Pinellas Beautiful, participating in that event. So we encourage people to come out and help us keep our city as clean as possible. And then on the 25th, 26th, and 27th, right at Rock Park will be the King of the Beach fishing tournament. Invite everybody to come out and be music. There'll be raffles, lots of boating and nautical vendors and craftware and other items and lots of food. So come out and watch the fish get weighed on Saturday afternoon, evening, the 27th. And the 26th is our final Friday for the month of April at Johns Pass Village.
All
Thank
right.
you.
No, thank you. Commissioners, do you have anything else? Go ahead.
One question, Robin.
Yes.
Several meetings back when Attorney Trask had given us the ethics complaint filed against the past commission had been dismissed and no ethic violations were found. I had asked you what was the cost to the city to defend that?
We had through the end of February, it looks like just over $19,000 in legal expenses to the Trask Daniel firm. I don't think, I'll check again, but that's what had been provided by their staff.
I just wanted to make that. I'd had several requests for what it cost the city for an unsubstantiated ethics complaint. Thank you.
Okay, anything else? Time is 7:21 PM. We'll adjourn then.